Right, it's early October 2019, so it's the international break just starting up. And if you've seen some of my videos before, um, I see this, excuse me, as an opportunity to look at the long-term markets, namely the who's going to win the league and who's going to get relegated. In terms of winning the league, Manchester City or Liverpool. Um, it's a difficult one. It is a difficult one, even though Liverpool are now 8 points in front. I basically thought to myself last week that I'll do this video when they were 5 points in front, but after this weekend, they've now gone 8 points in front. I think, I made a few notes that I'll go through now. I mean, Liverpool have made a fantastic start. You couldn't have a better start over the first 7 or 8 games. They've won every single one. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And importantly, they've had a bit of a wobble and got through it. I refer to the Champions League match that they had against Red Bull Salzburg. They were 3-0 up, came back to 3-3, but they still persevered and they still won. There's something there that they can refer to in the dressing room. We can't let that happen again, would be the sort of message that hopefully Klopp is getting through to his players. Liverpool have been there before as well last season, trying to get the win for the Premier League. They did fantastically, but I think many people don't realise that Manchester City did fantastically as well, and were just that little bit better. I think Liverpool will be cursing that 0-0 draw against Everton for many years to come, because if they could have just put one goal away then, just that one game, the title would have been theirs. Liverpool are also doing what it takes. Yeah, they're not blowing teams away like by 3 or 4 goals. They're not blowing them out the park. They're getting the job done. A win is a win. They got the win against Leicester City in the weekend just gone. They're getting good away wins. They beat Sheffield United by 1 goal. They beat Southampton by 1 goal. They are doing what it takes to win the game. They're not going there and just blasting the opposition. And to win a league, this is the way that I think you've got to win. You've got to win consistently, and you've got to find many different ways to get that win, and that's what they've been doing. They've beaten 2 of the big 6 already, those being Arsenal and Chelsea. And the Chelsea game was an interesting one because they had a lower expected goal rate in that game than what Chelsea did, and they still beat Chelsea away from home. So in terms of XG, they were expected to lose that game. Chelsea were expected to score more goals, but they didn't. Liverpool got the 2-1 victory, and that was a very, very, I feel, significant win, because it was their first real big test. Arsenal didn't really give them that much of a test at Anfield. They never do. Manchester City, are they more focused on the Champions League this year? If you speak to a City fan, or if you speak, to any of them, and you say to them, Champions League this year, they might say, yeah. That's the one that they really want. Could they do both? Potentially, yes. But I think that's they would love to get their name on that trophy. Maybe this is the year for them to do it, and for Liverpool to take the Premiership. That's the sort of vibe and the sort of feeling that I'm getting. With Liverpool as well, there's no talk of them being 2 games clear. They're 8 points clear, which is 2 games, so they can afford to lose 2 games, but there's no talk of that. Good God, if you're a Liverpool fan and you hear any talk like that, or see anybody talking like that, please correct them. You can't talk like that. Klopp seems to have got them sorted. We go again. We go again. We go again. In terms of taking every single game as it comes. And they've had experience of this. They've had the run-in for the Premiership title race last season as well. So, they know what they're doing. I've just referred to Manchester City as well, and that's the only team I've referred to. All the other teams seem to be quite inconsistent. Spurs are stale, very stale. Manchester Match of the Day had an interesting graphic last weekend that showed that there was about 6 or 7 players still playing for Spurs that were there 4 or 5 years ago. And if there's one thing that you've got to do if you want to be a successful team, is you've got to mix and match. You've got to keep things fresh. You got to keep things vibrant. You got to maybe rotate the players and rotate the backroom staff as well. And love him or loathe him, that is one thing that Alex Ferguson did really well. Klopp hasn't really had to do it up until now. Maybe next year, year after, that can be his next stage of trying to build a decent Liverpool team, which so far he has done. So the other teams are inconsistent. I mean, Arsenal are third. Can anybody see them being a threat at the moment? No, because they can't play away from home against any of the big sides. And lastly, for Liverpool, I was listening to an excellent podcast called Don't Tell Me the Score. It's a journalist, a sports journalist, and it's run through Radio 4. If you get on BBC Sounds and put it in, it is well worth listening to. It's all about the psychology of sport. And I was listening to it on the way home from work the other day, and it got me thinking about the Liverpool team, because he referred to the great team being the Barcelona team of a few years ago, where Carlos Puyol was captain. Not necessarily the best player in that team, but very, very good at bringing the team together and just making sure that everybody did their job. The Liverpool team at this current moment in time, I think, really, really is working along those lines. Whereas before, they were a team who was sort of like pulled. A captain was setting a standard and trying to pull his other players up to that standard, i.e. Steven Gerrard. That's not really the case anymore. It's more a case of the players know what they've got to do. There's no sort of like dominant individual on the pitch. They're playing well as a team, and if they don't play, or if any of the players feel that they're not playing as a team, they get annoyed, as Sadio Mane did the other day when he thought that Mo Salah wasn't playing part of the team. So there is definitely a continuity and a consistency in the Liverpool team that I've never really seen before. So there's a lot of pointers there that Liverpool are doing well, okay, and this could potentially be their year. Liverpool as well, they were trading at 4 on Betfair about a month ago to win the league. They're now 1.75. They've come crashing down, especially after they've gone 8 points clear. That was huge. Man City have, had a bit of a wobble. We'll have a look at Man City now. They're 2.46 at the moment on Betfair. And if you watch Man City, it's attack after attack after attack. They are a very, very attacking team. They're constantly going forward. Those two wing-backs are up and down, doing, a really, really effective job. But maybe it's too much attack. Maybe that's their problem. And they certainly have it at a few snags recently. Nobody expected them to lose against Wolves. Nobody really expected Norwich to do what they did to them. But I think, the Wolves game would have hurt. But I think the game that hurt them the most was when they dropped points against Spurs at home. Spurs literally had 2 shots on goal, and it was a 2-2 draw. I think that would have hurt them. But, you could argue, have they already had their wobble? Don't know. But they could certainly refer to that in the dressing room environment. And I'm sure that Pep Guardiola will be saying to the team, right, we can't make those mistakes again. We've got to keep going. We've had our wobble. Every team has a wobble. Liverpool will have a wobble. We can't have a wobble. All right. So it's all about the wobbles. It's all about when the wobbles are going to happen. Another factor is, if you watched any of my previous posts, you'll know that I have the philosophy that goals win games. Of course they do. It's a bleeding obvious thing to say, but that's why I spend so much time looking at the goal data. If you were to add up all of Manchester City's XG, expected goals, over their first games of the season, it comes to 25.64. Liverpool's comes to 17.39. Okay, so Manchester City are, they are creating more goal scoring chances than Liverpool. So is that a factor in whether you should back them or not, or whether they're going to come back? Anybody that backs them now are 8 points behind. You're taking a bit of a punt there. There's not really much strategy or thought behind what you're doing. Manchester City and Liverpool haven't played yet. That's going to be one hell of a game, and really one that is going to be extremely interesting. And I don't think there's been a game of that magnitude in terms of how it can affect a season for a good few seasons now. So even though they were big last season, this season I think those games are going to be bigger and even more significant. So it'll either be a thriller or a stale 0-0 draw. I can't see much of it in between that. Liverpool have not played Everton yet. Many Liverpool fans will probably be going, "Oh God, he brought that one up again." But that was a key game last year, and the Merseyside derby just puts form to one side, and the two teams go at each other, and it's a game. If Liverpool can get through that unscathed, then I think they've got a damn good chance. All in all, if to me, I haven't done any long-term trades yet. I'm going to watch the gap, and what I mean by the gap is the points gap. If Man City can bring the points gap down by Christmas, say even to maybe down by 3 points to a 5-point gap or even lower than that, I think they're worth a punt then to back and then lay at a later time in the season. I think the price, if they can maintain that, the price will begin to go down. However, if Liverpool can maintain this 8-point gap to Christmas, I think they're worth backing. And certainly if they extend the gap, they are, definitely worth backing. So, that's my thoughts on the present situation just before the second international break. If you agree, disagree, it's what football's all about, just having a bit of a chat about what's going on. But I just think, I do consider myself to be a neutral in terms of, I don't really follow, even though I enjoy football, I wouldn't really say that I am a fanatical follower of a team. I wouldn't get into deep conversation about and protect my team. It's not something that I would do. I look at it more analytically and logically, and with less sort of blind passion behind a team, if you see what I mean. But I hope you enjoyed that. Just a few thoughts from my way. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe, and happy trading.